So, I am Lee Wells. You know me, but for people watching, if you could just take a second, introduce yourself and give the title of what you do at Mind Chicago.
Sure thing. I will go first. I'm Naomi Kaplan. I'm an individual and group therapist at Mind
Mhm.
Chicago, as well as our operations manager.
Yay!
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Courtney. I am an individual and group therapist here at Mind Chicago as well.
Mhm. And you're a PCIT coordinator.
Yes, PCIT and PMT coordinator as well. I forget sometimes.
Right. See. And just for those watching, Naomi works with kids, teens, young adults, and families, specializing in OCD and anxiety, among other things like ADHD, etc. Courtney also works with the same group of folks, specializing in ADHD and other tricky behaviors, along with also anxiety and related challenges. So, should that pop up, they're great resources for you. But one of the things we wanted to talk about today was running groups, because at Mind Chicago, one of the things that we're known for are our groups, our kids groups, teen groups, and especially our parent-based groups. So both of you have run several groups in your career. If you wouldn't mind just sharing, what kinds of groups have you run in the last couple of years and for who?
Yeah, I can go first. So I started running groups. Of course, I run groups here at Mind Chicago. I think where I got my first kind of experience of running groups was a parenting group when I was at Lurie's Children's Hospital. I ran a PMT group there with a co-facilitator, a supervisor, which was amazing. And then I brought that over and I continue to do that here at Mind Chicago. So I run a Parenting Tricky Behaviors group, which is a parent-based group, virtual group for parents with kiddos with ADHD and tricky behaviors that come with it.
Mhm.
The best group. Um,
Very popular.
I,
Love it.
I, I at Mind have always run our kids DBT skills group, or as we call it, OMG group, only making gains. This group is for kids ages 8 to 13-ish. And we focus each round or session of group on one of the DBT modules. So
Mhm.
skills from mindfulness, interpersonal effectiveness, emotion regulation, or distress tolerance. We'll
Mhm.
really hone in on one of those pillars and go through
Mhm.
all the skills together.
Yeah, and you have a parent session too, so the parents get some info. Mhm.
Correct. We always meet with the parents to give them the psycho ed on the skills as well.
I love that you 2 are talking about these, because they are our 2 most popular groups. We've run a number of groups at
Oh.
Mind, from space groups to teen groups to all kinds of things, and OMG and Parenting Tricky Behaviors are by far the most registered for and most attended group at Mind Chicago. And I'm gonna guess it's because it's really hitting on stuff that people really need right now, which is parents who want support, camaraderie, and skills and strategies for managing ADHD and tricky behaviors that show up to be the kind of parents they want to be. And then with the OMG DBT group is kids who are struggling with those big emotions and they're not sure how to get to where they want to go with friendships or getting along at home or being in the sports groups that they want, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I want to ask each of you, what would you want a new clinician to know when running their first group or groups?
I can start out, Courtney.
Go right ahead, all you.
I guess the first thing that I think of if I were to have a conversation with a new clinician starting out with groups is just the reminder that group doesn't have to go smoothly or perfectly for it to be helpful. You have
Mhm.
to expect interruptions and side conversations and for things to go a completely different direction than maybe you had planned, and
Mhm.
know that that can still be helpful and can maybe even be an indicator of like that is what the group needs in that moment. And on top of that, like you don't have to expect for everything to be delivered perfectly or consumed perfectly. Like, to expect a kid to go home knowing every bit of knowledge about a coping strategy that we've covered in that session might be a little bit unrealistic. But group's more about planting the seeds and giving kids the opportunity to let them grow outside of group and come back together and practice them in that moment.
I think that's a really good point, and it also lends itself to the reminder too that sometimes group it for some kids is about gaining the skills and strategies or for parents, and sometimes it's just about getting some of the wins. So having a social interaction with a peer, showing
Mhm.
up to group successfully, completing something and walking away with that. And then I really like what you said about the things just happen. So I'm running a group, a resilience builder group, which is a CBT based group. And literally in the middle of group, one of my middle schoolers' tooth fell out.
Oh, no.
I love a mid-session tooth loss. It is so funny every time and the most unexpected thing, but it happens more than you would think.
Yes, and it's one of these things, and it was it's a baby tooth, but, some kids have a couple lingering baby teeth into their, like, 11, 12-year-old world, and it just came out, but it was really unexpected, startled everyone was startled, we had to work through it, it's fine, but, it totally changed the dynamic, everyone had thoughts, it took up time, so we had to skip an activity, but that was okay, you know? It was all just part of another group day.
That is wild. I think running parenting groups is so different. Like, hearing that, I think
You
I think I would
you
have
don't have
panicked.
anyone you don't have anyone losing teeth in your groups,
No,
Courtney?
no, and I have a feel like, I don't think I would handle that situation well. I think I would have played it cool for the kids, but I would have slightly been panicking on the inside for sure. Teeth are not, no, no. Uh,
Okay,
which
so what
I
would
think
you tell parents? Yeah, or tell, new clinicians about groups for parents, yeah.
I think this is where it definitely differs. I think for me, going into my first time running the tricky behavior group here at Mind, one, I co facilitated it with you, Lee, which was super helpful. I think as a first time kind of group runner here, my first group at Mind. But I think working with parents, something that I had worries about and I wanted to feel prepared with was feeling and like presenting as confident and having the information, right? It's a skills-based group. It's also collaborated where families can talk and share. And I think I learned over time to reduce my talking and to let them share. But, come feeling prepared really helped, I think, with my confidence and, running through it a few times, and having the materials and the slides, right? Virtual groups are probably a little bit different than kid groups and that are in person in the office. So for me, it was feeling like I had the information and then also being prepared for those, like, interactions with adults and parents that are, like, having challenges.
Mhm.
And it's nice seeing the collaboration of all the parents come together. It's one of my favorite things about running the group.
I do think, like, collaborating with someone who has a little more group skill the first time can be helpful, just to get a feeling for how other people run groups. You don't have to be the same, but and then to build your confidence and see how an interaction happens is really useful. But the preparation for both of your groups, you both are very prepared people. So, you guys prepped a lot ahead. And that's actually something that, I would say to new clinicians would be you're not gonna have to prep every group that way. Once you have a
Mhm.
group down, you can run that group various ways with various people because you got a lot of the things made and the practice in, and you can edit and change. But that first group or the first two groups, there is a lot of prep and time and to prepare yourself. That's part of the process, and that's okay. That this is just what it's like to make sure that you're prepared and that other people are getting the most out of the experience to not let that shy you away from a group. Because actually some of the prep can be fun, you could do it with other people, it gets you excited. I was doing my resilience builder, and I'm, like, making things and laminating, and I'm getting jazzed, and I got another idea, and then I got an M&M's game idea, and, it really revs you up.
Yeah, and I think that was probably my biggest advice too is, like, if you can co-facilitate, like, I did it at Lori's with my supervisor there. I learned kind of her strategies, and then I co-facilitated it with you, and I learned your strategies, and I was able to, like, kind of create my own way of presenting it, but, like, kind of pulling and having some examples, which really helped me feel, like, prepared for the group, and like you said, I'm always changing it, I'm always adding to it, always learning,
Mhm.
but it definitely, I felt like, helped me grow within that group.
Absolutely. And David, was in there observing and kind of learning from you too. And he had great things to say. Honestly, I think you probably run it better than the two of us at this point. You're so experienced with it. You've done it so many times. You've refined it. You've met all the different kinds of families. And now it's really like your way that you run it. It's probably not even very much like the one that I ran originally. Some content similarity, but
Yeah, there's some pieces to it that I pulled, and then some pieces that I've altered and changed, but yeah, I love it. It's an
Mhm,
amazing group, and, every time I run it, it's something a little bit different, which also makes it more fun that way.
mhm. And perhaps some space groups could come up in the future. We'll see.
Yes, Naomi's face. We may have just
Naomi and
talked about
Courtney.
this.
Planting some seeds. Okay. So in your mind, what's the best part about running groups? Like, what do you love? What's fun? What do you take away?
Courtney, do you wanna start? I feel like you just started touching on this a bit at the end of what you were talking about.
Yeah, I can definitely start on it. I feel like I take away so much from the groups. Um, I feel working with parents for the tricky behavior group, we keep the group pretty small. We have between 3 to 4 families, so we can allow time. Like I said, when I first did this, I think I did a lot of talking and like teaching. And then I learned, right, there's so much value in the families talking and them sharing them experiences. And the great part about it is we have kids of different ages with ADHD. We have some like families with 8-year-olds and then some families with 12-year-old family kiddos. And it's nice to see the families come together and support each other of saying like, hey, I was there.
Mhm,
That was a tough age. That was a tough moment. And either like, "You got this," a nice supportive statement, or like, "This is what helped us." And I've actually learned some really fun strategies and some websites for screens, like screens is always a challenge, right? I've had parents that are like very like tech savvy that have shared things with me of like, "Hey, we found this helpful and I looked into it and it was like an amazing resource." So, I think just the collaboration with the families together and supporting each other. I've even had groups in the past where like at the end of the group, they were like, "Can we all, like, stay in contact? Like, can you send me their email so, like, we can talk?" And, just seeing that kind of bond where families feel like, "Hey, I'm not in this alone. This doesn't feel like I'm doing this all alone," is probably my favorite part of running a group compared to, like, individual work.
mhm.
My answer is very similar to that. My favorite part about the group is just watching the connections be built between group members. When no matter what the group is for, if it's for parenting tricky behaviors, if it's for distress tolerance, it doesn't have to be a group just around social skills and interpersonal effectiveness. It can be for anything, but I love to watch the progression across each session of group to see like how are they building their relationships with each other, what kind of feedback are they giving each other, how are they engaging with each other. I mean, typically when I start a group of 8 to 12 year olds, they are sat for the full hour, dead silent, not moving, and that's the first session. And then we're 8 sessions in wrapping up and I can't get anyone to sit down and no one is ever gonna stop talking. And it's so cool because they have built that comfortability with each other, and I love getting to be a part of it and just watching those connections be made.
Mhm. I know, I love that too. It's so great, and then also I love sometimes group is, it's hard for kids to try group, it's hard for parents to try group, and
Mhm.
then they take this healthy risk where they have to be vulnerable with other people, and then they realize they like it or it's meaningful, and so you give them this exposure to some social element where they have to have a vulnerable part of themselves out there, and they're successful. I have a kid who's in my group who was like, "I don't think this is gonna be great," and then the school social worker and the parent reached out and said, "He likes it. He's feeling good, he wants to come back," and at the end of it, actually the
Amazing.
first group, he's like, are you gonna be doing this the next semester too?" So he hasn't even gotten into it and he can do it. But this idea that your mind is telling you a story that this isn't gonna be good, you're gonna be embarrassed, you're not gonna like anyone in the group, and then you take the healthy risk and it comes together, and it teaches them they could try to take other healthy risks, and that's the same for adults too. Groups are hard for adults.
Mhm.
I mean, I love groups, so I like to talk, but other people feel
Yes.
differently. I was actually gonna share this in our consult group, but I'll just do it on this video. But, sometimes I do this thing too, but this is my like about it, is we are all very busy. You guys have super full schedules. I also have a very full schedule. So then I'll plan a group and my mind will tell me, "Why did you add this in? This is too much work. Look at all the work you have. Now you have to commit to this every week and you have to contact parents." And then I'll start to doubt why I'm doing this group. Why would I add this additional thing that is more vulnerable for me, where I have more contacts, more kids in the room? And then I went and did my group or started the group at the school that I'm doing it at. And one, just this feeling in my chest was so good with these funny, all of them have dyslexia, ADHD and or anxiety or something related. Just this feeling was so good and navigating and being on my toes and problem solving, and it was fun and we laughed a lot. And I walked away with just this elevated feeling of like, oh, this is why I like my job. This is the heart of everything I love about why I decided to do this field of children and family. Every single moment about it, and I've been riding that high since then, and I just, like, love it, but I think groups can reconnect you to the deep richness of the fun of your job, and
Yeah.
the love and the, good part of your job. I know maybe not for everyone, but at least for me.
Yeah. I
I
know that
totally feel
feeling
the
that you're
same.
describing in your body. Like, whenever
Mhm,
I take a few months off of leading a group and I go back to it, that first group meeting, I leave feeling so energized, so excited, and again, just, like, so fulfilled by the job that I have every day. It's so
mhm.
cool.
I know. Okay, so the last question that I have is there a myth that might be a client myth, a parent myth, it might be a myth out in the community or among clinicians about groups that you'd like to bust or address?
Yeah, I have 2. I think I have one that I had, right,
Mhm,
when I was first asked or, like, developing this group, and then I think I have some from parents that I often hear. I think
mhm,
for me, when I first kind of approached the idea of starting this group, I had this, like, myth or this thought of like, "Oh, I need to be an expert in, like, group therapy. Like, I need to have more training in group therapy to run a
mhm,
group. I need a certification, right? I need to have something along that lines." And I think while training helps and, like, knowing the materials that you're talking about, right? But it kinda goes back to, like, we can start small, like, collaborate with other coworkers, collaborate with supervisors or other co-hosts, like, learn from there, right? And I think, like I said, co-leading is so helpful, but it's just like any other thing when you get out of grad school. Like, once you start doing it, you learn so much about it. So I think for me, that was my own. And then I think in the sense of like parents, of the idea of like, I've had one parent join my group or like wanting to join the group. They were debating between individual, they were debating between like joining the group. And I think their thought was, is like, well, what if other people don't open up? They were a talker. They're like, I know I'm going to talk, but what if like other people don't open up in front of others? And it's going to be like awkward, right? Or like other people are going to be too shy. And, when the group has this idea of like kind of safety and, you know, collaboration of like, hey, we all are kind of going through this same thing.
Mhm,
The parents in my group often kind of feel so less alone. And that's what like the common thing I hear at the end of 7 weeks. It's like it helps me feel so less alone. That's how I actually get so many more families for
mhm,
group PMT work rather than individual,
mhm.
because that is sometimes like, yeah, they want to know the skills, they want to know the strategies, and like that's also a really big thing that they're feeling in that moment. And it really the group contributes to helping with that. And yeah, there are groups where people don't talk and like have their camera off, right? And then there's some groups where everybody just like I can't even get through it because everybody went, and I love those are my favorite. I love those.
mhm.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think this also points out a difference between working with parents or adults versus kids, because the myth that I think is that I think about most often is that like every moment in group has to be deep or productive, when in reality some of the most
Mhm,
therapeutic moments are during laughter and games and small talk. J- Kids learn from being creative and getting natural feedback from each other, being
mhm,
seen, feeling
Yeah.
like they're not alone, and all those things don't necessarily have to come from a really good talk about a skill by me or from them opening up about their deepest, darkest secrets. This can just
Mhm.
come from like being human together.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I love both of those, and they have, like, an overlapping theme there.
Hmm.
Mhm. Yeah. I think too I guess it's not a myth, but it's, like, maybe a misconception when we're talking about young people and starting group or even adults and starting groups is sometimes people aren't super enthused or they say, "Maybe I don't want to," or, "This is not a good idea," and being like, "Well, then don't do it." This idea that you have to feel ready and excited to start group and that most of the time we are depleted or we are not ready or I like it's like that car analogy, right? So it's like if you look out the window and your car's outside and it just got like one drop of gas and it has no gas and it's on E, you can look at it and be like, it has no gas, it has no gas. I'd love to go places, but it has no gas. The only way to go get gas is to get in the car, drive it on its least amount of gas to the gas station to fill it up to drive gas. So to get motivation, you actually have to use the little energy you have to get the more motivation. But I think that is the same for group. We have to use that tiny bit of willingness to get started, and then it fuels us to realize like, "Ooh, this matters," and people get
Mhm.
connected. And I think it's a like a misconception, I think, when I talk to people and their stressors about starting group, across the board. Um, thank you, everyone. This was great. I love talking about groups, and the 2 of you are fantastic, and if anyone is looking for therapeutic support, you can reach out to Mind Chicago. We work with children, adolescents, young adults, and families, and you have 2 fantastic therapists right here. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.